Tony D and Little Joan on a rainy night in South Jersey, and I don't really have a trailer to find. I dug. There's nothing coming out this week. It's all being pushed back to next year. But so today, what I thought I'd talk about is just something a little different. A trend on the internet that I think I'm seeing. I talked about this probably 3 or 4 years ago. And that was my worry of this, that we would hit a tipping point. And once we hit that tipping point in the culture war or whatever this is, people would start to go the other way in droves. And I know I've talked about it before, but I think I'm really seeing the signs. Things are starting to go the other way. And the reason I say that, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody specifically or anything like that, just noticing the trends, is because I see people now on the right side getting cocky about their victories. Because the victories are starting to stack up, right? It's clear that Disney is taking it on the chin. People are talking about ESG like maybe it's not the best idea in the world. Harvard's taking it on the chin. U of Penn did. All these woke institutions are getting hammered. And we seem to be on the precipice of everybody going, F this, and it all turns around. So, what does that mean for us, essentially? What does that mean for this culture war, or whatever you want to call it? What I think it means is something like this. We're hitting that tipping point. And the moment we hit that tipping point, and again, like I said, when trends die, they die hard. The trend was being woke, being in the ESG, being in the critical race theory, and helping trans people and all this stuff. All of it was trend. All of it were trendy belief systems. Ukraine, everything. Throw everything in it because everybody on the left is essentially a collectivist. And really, it's not so much people on the left. It's people who, they don't really care. They don't really care about a belief system. They don't think about it. What they think about is what's best for me. And 20 years ago, when we were invading Iraq and George W. Bush was standing on a pile of rubble talking about America, everybody suddenly came out of the woodwork waving an American flag, talking about joining the army, talking about supporting the troops, and anybody who looked at you sideways when you suggested that would get some sort of talking down to. I remember specifically one of my relatives when I suggested, hey, maybe we shouldn't fight these wars overseas, and they just thought, oh, you just don't like America. I just thought, what? Just because I don't want to fight wars overseas, I don't like America. Yeah, you just kind of don't like America. That same relative now? Complete opposite. Caught up in all the wokeness. Not to a big extent because they are a lot older, but now they're the other way. Well, America's not that so great. And you could tell that the propaganda has affected them. So what happens when we hit this tipping point? And I think we've either hit it or we're just about to hit it. The sheep, the people who really just, again, they kind of don't care. They just do what's best for them. ESG, all this woke stuff was best for them, right? They're getting blasted at work. Oh, okay, no, I'm going to be woke now. I'm going to go into work today. I'm going to start using everybody's pronouns. I'm going to start talking about my pronouns. I'm going to do all the woke crap they tell me to do because that makes my life easier and that's better for me. Those kind of people is what I'm talking about. The moment this trend is dead and it goes the other way, right? It goes to the anti-woke. Now it's oh, you don't want to be woke. No. You want to be anti-woke. It's these woke people who caused all the problems. Oh, yeah. I'm anti-woke too, they'll say. Really? Yeah, I've been anti-woke the whole time. I've just been going along with it. Yeah, see, that's how clever I am. I was faking it. Now I've been anti-woke the whole time. I've been fighting the battle behind the scenes, on the inside. That's what these people will say. They won't admit they were wrong. They're not going to come out and say, yeah, I was woke for a while, but now I'm starting to see it was a mistake. They don't say that. They say, no. I was never that woke. Yeah, I had to go along. It wasn't my fault. My company would have fired me. I need my job. Or whatever. Some excuse. And they all start to go the anti-woke way. Whatever that is. Anti-woke, conservative, whatever. You're starting to see it now. So again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not even saying that this example I'm going to give you is wrong. But so John Delraz, I think his name's pronounced. He's over at the Fandom Pulse. So he posts this. Let's see if I can find it. He posts this thing on Twitter. It was a panel from a comic by Tom King, a Wonder Woman comic. He posts a lot of comics. He talks about comics all the time. And look, he's done some good work, I think. Yeah, this is it. This is it here. It says, the new Tom King Wonder Woman has a panel where Cheetah is, I'll say, taking care of herself with her animal companion. Full bestiality on DC Comics now. Was this in the script, or was the artist to blame? Disgusting. Is this true? Well, it might be, if that's the intent, but the panel, other than the position of her hand and the fact that she's sort of leaning back, it could be that she just put her hand there. Could be the artist just drew her that way. Not that she was diddling herself next to a cheetah. That just where her hand, that was the most natural pose the artist decided to draw. But I think, again, I'm not knocking John. I like his new site, the Fandom Pulse, but I think he's sort of jumping to conclusions here. I think he wants to see that. I don't know. I haven't read this comic, so maybe there's something else in the script that indicates that is true, but I don't think so. I think that's just the position of the hand. So he may be going too far the other way, right? Looking for woke stuff to complain about when it's not there. And that's the real danger, I think. Because we're going to reach the point where everybody will want to be anti-woke. Everyone will want to be in comics like Ethan Van Sciver and your boy Zach and whoever else and be anti-woke in everything. In which case, the opposite will now happen. Instead of people piling on because you used the wrong pronouns or you told a trans person to go F themselves or whatever, now you're going to have people piling on because, oh, you're woke, buddy. Yeah. We found an old video of you saying something woke. We found an old video of you saying something not very red-pilled, not very conservative. That's my worry. Even Ethan, he questioned this. He was like, are you sure? What's the deal with this? God, there was another example too. Not on John. Somebody else posted something. But it seems to be people are jumping to conclusions. Oh, I remember what it was. I'm not sure he was being serious. But Yellow Flash posted a picture of Jennifer Love Hewitt, and the story was Jennifer Love Hewitt at 23 was asked by a director to be more sexy. Now, I'm not sure if Flash was kidding around or he's actually outraged, but he was like, well, only 5 years ago she was a minor. I think he was making a joke. But it's hard to tell. Maybe he was just trying to needle people for a response on Twitter. But that's pretty common. You know, if you're taking pictures of some hot girl, you're telling her to sex it up. Come on, sex it up. Be sexy. That's an indication for her to start flipping her hair and pouting her lips and doing a look. That's what models do. You're encouraging them to be sexy for the pictures or the story or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, good God. Is that supposed to be Wonder Woman? Jeez, that looks terrible. Oh, no, that's Wonder Man? It's like some dude dressed as Wonder Woman. That's weird. Um, but yeah, we have to be wary of going too far the other way, I think, is the theme of this video. And I'm worried that we're going to hit the tipping point and then everybody will go the other way. I mean, one of the things James Lindsay is calling out is how Christian nationalism is a psyop meant to push people on the Christian right into doing something stupid. Which I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. I don't have any proof, but that seems to be a thing. And they're saying some things that are a little too spicy sometimes, or they're implying things. Again, I think it indicates that there are weak people everywhere. And, you know, here's the idiots protesting for Gaza. These people, again, are sheep. But some of the sheep, for whatever reason, get out early and they switch to the other side. And those people are still, if they stay weak-minded, if they stay, if they just assume, well, I figured it out. I finally figured it out now. See, it's not to be woke, it's to be anti-woke. And I'll always be anti-woke, and that's always the answer. And I'm using that term, because I can't think of anything else. But life is a mixture of different things. A lot of people have conservative views, but they also have, some more liberal ones in the mix there. And we have to be wary of going too hard in the paint against our enemies, I think, especially people who, for instance, aren't communist. Now, communists are a special class. In order to help the country, we really have to concentrate on the communists. There's a lot of infighting going on the conservative circles about a recent calendar. I don't know if I can find that. All these hot conservative women did a calendar. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Conservative calendar. There, I'll find that. Well, here's, I just heard about the conservative right-wing controversy over a calendar, an effing calendar. Yeah, they're arguing back and forth. Yeah, it's called Real Women of America. So, I think that's a joke. Here it is. This is Riley Gaines. There's nothing wrong with this. It's mostly a grift for, I think, they're making right-wing beer, and now they're trying to do Conservative Dad's Real Women of America calendar, featuring the most beautiful conservative women in America. I mean, it's a smart move. I don't have anything against it. I would totally dig the calendar. I don't buy calendars. I don't work in an auto parts store. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But some conservatives are losing their damn minds over it, and they're coming out awfully hard against this for some reason. There's nothing wrong with a little cheesecake. There's not nudity in this. It's not aimed at children. It's for, obviously, grown men. It's called Conservative Dads. For conservative dads. So, obviously, it's for adults. And it's pretty mild in this day and age. This isn't the late 1800s. I don't think anybody has a problem with girls in a bikini. Another guy who talks about this stuff is, oh gosh, he's the artist on Razor Fist's comic book. George. He has sort of a Greek name. It's like Papadopoulos, something like that. You know the guy. I mean, he's a really good artist. I don't know. I can't think of his name, or else I'd find him on here. He pops up into my feed once in a while. Um, so, he does some great artwork, but he talks about like Matt Walsh hating on anime and cartoons and comic books. Um, he sees that as being strictly for children. It's a bit of an extreme take. I think he's just doing it to get more clicks. Mostly Matt Walsh. He's a bit of a clickbaiter. I think, bit of a troller. Um, but the artist took it kind of personally. So you've got this debate back and forth between them. It's not really doing much for the culture war. If anything, it's just sort of dividing our energies and distracting from the communists. The communists are the people we have to worry about, I think. I think the communists have infiltrated the United States in levels of government and levels of corporate media. And I think they're pushing agendas. And I say that not because I have proof, but I say that because I see things being pushed that seems to jibe with what China would want. And China, although it's not number one yet, it's sort of on the rise, and it does have a lot of disposable income still, thanks mostly to us and American businesses doing slave work over there. And because they have all this money, they can bribe people. They can also get people, there was a report saying there's 1.1 million spies in the West, probably most of them here. And so when you think about that, who initiates, say, remember when Top Gun banned the patches on Tom Cruise's jacket because they were afraid of offending the Chinese? Like, who in the movie studio would actually say, hey, we don't want to offend the Chinese, let's remove that patch? I think there's a good chance that initial idea was pushed by someone with influence, trying to influence the people at the studio in order to do that, from China. Or they're a proxy for China. The Chinese, I think, do, and when I say the Chinese, I mean the communists, want to take over the movie industry. And what better way to do it than to help destroy the biggest movie company in America, Disney? And what better way to destroy Disney by pushing them into woke politics so hard that it destroys them? It makes sense to me from a strategy standpoint. And, the corporate guys, being sharks that they are, they'll just sell off the pieces and make a bundle of money, and they don't care that, the parks will be owned by another company, and the movies will be owned by this company, and the streaming service will be owned by that company, and the IPs will be everywhere. They don't care about that. All they care about is the money end of it. And if they can split up Disney, well, that just means that's one less competitor on the market that the Chinese communists have to compete with. Or perhaps they're trying to do a secret takeover of various media companies, or have enough influence that even if they don't take it over, they have enough influence that people go, because we had a bunch of stories a few years ago in which China exerted its influence, right? You had the NBA coming out, not really supporting China, but saying, hey, those guys give us a bunch of money. And when somebody spoke out about Taiwan, there was it was a big deal. That should absolutely not be a factor for an American sports team to say Taiwan is its own country. Same thing with Blizzard, when somebody, what did he hold up? I think he held up a sign that said Free Taiwan, and then he was in a competition for one of the Blizzard games, and then Blizzard, I think, he took his ward away or did something to him, punished him in some way. Because some of these companies are beholden to Chinese customers. Same thing with Disney. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Chinese are pushing their luck, at least behind the scenes. And they would want to do it behind the scenes. Because doing it openly leads to the culture war, which we're in. But as that tips, then it's going to be the opposite. And you're going to have a bunch of people who aren't particularly spun up on these issues looking to prove their anti-wokeness. You know, by, oh, hey, there's a Chinese guy. He's obviously against us. I have to do something about it. No. No, there's plenty of Chinese Americans that are perfectly fine. The Chinese nationals, however, if they're still citizens in China, they're probably beholden to the CCP because they don't have a choice. And they probably shouldn't be given access to vital information in companies or government here. So, you know, as the culture war tips and everybody goes anti-woke, I mean, don't take it too far, is what I'm saying. Check yourself here, because, you know, in the early days of that, there would be nothing more than to help the left than to overreact still. And as the tipping point tips, there is more of a danger of someone overreacting, partly because they just want to prove, no, I'm not woke anymore. See, I'll do something. Or, you know, somebody who, for instance, has a YouTube channel and reports on woke stuff again and again and again. I mean, I was saying like 2 years ago, they were already scraping the bottom of the barrel for these stories. You know, as much as I like Ethan Van Sciver and some of the other people on Twitter, you know, they will find tweets by someone, and they're very woke tweets, and they're making fun of them. But, you know, a person with 100 followers, I mean, nobody's seeing their tweets to begin with. You're giving them more of a reach just by making fun of them. It's different when Bryan Cranston or, you know, one of these AstroTurf Democratic shills says something totally communist. Yeah, you should call them out because they have a big following. And they should be called out because I think they're probably phony shills who do it for money. But when you're talking about someone who has 100 followers and says something stupid, even if it's really, really stupid, why give it oxygen? Why make fun of that? I don't know if it's punching down, but it definitely doesn't feel like punching up. I say ignore those people, because those are people who could change. Those are people who will eventually join the other side because they'll just realize, oh yeah, I was wrong. I'm just going to quietly switch sides, and, you know, while the getting's good, kind of thing. But if you give them attention, you entrench their stupid leftist beliefs a little bit, maybe enough that they never leave. So yeah, don't go after a guy with, you know, 50 to 100 followers. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I only have 3,000 and I feel like a nobody on Twitter. I can't imagine somebody with 100 followers suddenly getting retweeted just because they had a bad take. I mean, that's got to be crazy. One day you have 100 followers and the next day you got 5,000 people yelling at you going, ah, you're a retard. Doesn't seem like a good way to win people over to your side. Razor Fist has said stuff about that, like, don't give some of this stuff oxygen. And I think he's right. You know, he does a lot of, you know, he promotes what he likes and what he thinks is good. He's big on this game Thief and the stealth games. You know, James Lindsay, always moving on to the next thing, man. He's so ahead of the curve. Although he's still talking about Harvard. Harvard's still a big thing. He keeps saying, don't hire Harvard graduates. Here he's retweeting. Students now rejecting early Harvard acceptance as devaluing of Ivy League degree continues. Nice. So, yeah. I'm not saying, you know, give up on calling out woke idiots. You should call them out. But you shouldn't bother to call out the ones that are so below the radar. You're actually helping them a little bit and entrenching them. Maybe those are people you could have a discussion with, perhaps, unless they're too crazy. Because they're not totally entrenched in their, you know, principles. Most of them aren't. And that's my point, too. Most of these people don't give a damn. They're just out for it for themselves. And when they see that being anti woke is better for them in the long run, they'll all jump on board. And then we have real problems. Then we have too many anti woke people. And then we're going to have more infighting, more and more infighting, because it's going to be, well, are you anti woke enough? You don't seem anti woke enough. Just like when people on the left, they have that circular firing squad, they get into a purity spiral. I guess that's what I'm saying. We have to avoid the purity spiral. We have that problem in the libertarians all the time. Oh, you're not libertarian enough. You still have a driver's license. You're not a sovereign citizen. You're not an ANCAP. So, I guess what I'm saying is, keep thinking. You know, when something comes across your way, you know, when that, oh, here he is, George Axelopoulos. He's the artist I was referring to. Here he is now. Tip for Republicans: if your team keeps losing, you need to make room for new players. I'm not sure about that, but you know, he is right that something should be done about the old Republicans. The rhinos need to go. New blood. The MAGA blood should move in. And you know, I think guys like George, Razor Fist, Ethan, a few others, they're trying, myself, we're trying to change the culture to something sensible, getting away from all this nonsense. You know, school doesn't seem to be worth a damn anymore. So we need to create something on the outside, and that's repeated itself in the 70s. You know, as much as I was straight A's in school was boring to me. I wasn't particularly knowledgeable from schoolwork. I just knew how to take tests. I could see the patterns, and I would just, sometimes I would take a test without studying at all. I wouldn't even know what the subject was until I got the test in front of me. But I could tell by how the answers were written what the answers were, because they were so poorly written, and it was obvious for multiple choice questions. So I learned stuff outside of school. For instance, playing Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, that sounds weird, right? But when you play Dungeons and Dragons, especially the early editions, you see all these interesting weapons and medieval stuff, and you think, you know, when you're playing a game, you kind of want to understand it more, so maybe you go to a dictionary to look up what a halberd is. And then you read about it, and when it was forged, and when it was invented, and then you might read about the culture a little bit that came out of, and just to look at the game and see where they got all this information. And that's what I would do with a lot of the role-playing games. That's how I learned about the Wild West from a role-playing game called Boot Hill. I learned when stuff was invented I used to like to read the timelines of inventions and stuff in games like Call of Cthulhu, because they would just have a list of when things were invented, because the role-playing game wanted you, okay, if you pick, for instance, 1922 as the year of your campaign, the GM would want to know what weapons were available and what inventions were on the cusp and which ones just weren't invented yet. And that was always very interesting to me. So I would read all that stuff, you know. I would read the rule books, and maybe I'd look some of that stuff up, because I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. So this is when this gun was invented, and this is when people used it, and it came into vogue, and whatever. So you can learn a lot of stuff outside of school from people who are just writing and creating cool stuff. And that's what I think. I see us as sort of an alternate educational pipeline in a weird way. You know, people who read the Pineys hopefully will learn about South Jersey history, folklore, and, you know, they'll get some interesting tidbits, and then they'll go, which part of this was real that he incorporated, which part of it did he make up? And then they'll go online, start looking things up, and then hopefully they educate themselves a little bit, and they feel like, oh, I learned some stuff. Because that's the overall goal, you know, to win the hearts and minds in the culture war, not to just, I don't know, make videos and sneer at people. I know that's what I do, but I feel like my targets are on point because I'm going after movie people, and they tend to have a lot of money, with some exceptions. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. If you can find a more base take than that, I say take it. I will be this Saturday, I will be at Level Up Entertainment, Mays Landing in the Hamilton Mall. A lot of you say, I thought that mall was closed. It is not closed. It has gotten a second life. The 80s are back, baby. And they're at the Hamilton Mall at Level Up. They got and not only is there Level Up, which is like a cool comic book store, which I'll be in front of, right next door is a cool punk rock store. And they got some other cool stores in the place. They've got your usual, crazy pretzel place. And I'm sure there's an Orange Julius or something in there. So come on out, get a slice of pizza, get a copy of the Pineys. We'll see you on Saturday. See you tomorrow.